Good morning. Again, this is Rachel with Infused Meadows, and I am going to make my garlic pull-apart bread. So in this cup, I have 3/4 a cup of warm water. I have heated this to 111 degrees. And to this, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of sugar. This up right back. Okay. I'm also going to add 2 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. I use dry active. So there's 1, 2, and 1/4. Sorry if the bag was in the way. Okay, I keep my yeast in the freezer. That's the best place to keep it. And then I'll just pull it out as I need it. So you're going to whisk this together. And you don't want to get your water too hot, or milk, whichever recipe you're going to make. Some use milk, some use water with milk powder, some use buttermilk. Just depends on what you're making, really. Anyway, so we want to mix this up really, really well. Make sure that our yeast is nice and in there and comfy cozy. And from here, we're going to let this set. Dry active yeast will bloom. So what this means is you'll start to see a frothy foam build on the top. That's what you want, because that means that your yeast is alive, active, and well and happy. So this can take anywhere between, I don't know, sometimes 3 minutes. Depending on the temperature of your water, and I always put a paper towel over this so that it doesn't breathe too much. Excuse me one second. And, up to 10 minutes. Some people like to set 10 minutes. I give it until it needs it, which is, it can be 3 to 5. But once it foams up, we're going to use this. So I'm going to put this back in the freezer, and I'll be back and we'll do our flour mixture. Okay, so we're going to take our bowl. This is the bowl to my stand mixer. And to this, we want to add, the recipe should be anywhere between 2 cups and possibly 2 1/3 cup. Honestly, this is going to depend on your home, the environment in your home, hot, cold, moisture. It can play with your bread. So what you're looking for is, like with this recipe in particular, you want a tacky dough. It shouldn't be sticking to your fingers and pulling off, but it should feel sticky when you touch it, but it doesn't come off on your hands. I hope that makes sense. So I'm gonna start with 2 cups, and I'll add 2 if I need to in my stand mixer. You can do this by hand. There's 1 cup. 2 cups. Excuse that noise. Apologize. Alright, so I check it as it's mixing, and then all you're doing is you're looking for it to pull away from the bowl, latch onto your dough hook. Excuse me. Latch onto your dough hook, and from there you're going to stop your machine. Obviously, do not put your hands in there while it's mixing. Stop the machine, touch your dough. If it feels sticky but doesn't pull off, you're good. If it's pulling off on your hand, you need to add a little bit more flour. So what I generally do is I go ahead and I measure out my 1/3 cup. I don't know why I closed that. And you saw that I fluffed the flour. This is bread flour, by the way. You can use plain flour if you like, but for things like this, I tend to use bread flour. Anyway, so I'll have that setting aside so that if I need it, I will start to add it in a tablespoon at a time until my dough feels the way that I need it to feel. So, to my flour, I'm going to add, if I can get this open, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. 1, 2. If you ever see me using the same what looks like the colors and stuff of the measuring spoons or the measuring cups. I actually have 2 sets of this. So, yeah. I like to make sure I have enough because I'm usually busy throughout the day and I need to make sure that everything is good to go. Okay, I'm also going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. And I've told you all before, I dehydrate and grind my own. Most of this I've grown myself, the garlic, the onion, obviously not the salt, and my own parsley. I'm also going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of parsley. And you don't have to. You can use basil if you like basil instead of parsley. I just like the little bit that's in there. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. Let me grab my whisk. Should have been ready. And as you can see, that's my spaghetti sauce that I made earlier. It is cooling so that I can put it into a jar. So you want to whisk this to make sure that everything is nice and combined. Let me put all this up and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back at my baking station that my husband built me, and I love it. Anyway, this is our yeast mixture after about 4 minutes. As you can see, we have a nice foam on here. This means our yeast is alive and well and happy. We're going to put this into our flour mix. I personally scrape everything down that I do. It's just, I don't like waste, even if it's a little. If I can avoid it, why not? Okay. So, you can mix this in with this just to give your dough hook a start, which is generally what I do. I know the point of a stand mixer is to help you out with the work, but you know, I like to at least help it along. Okay, now I have a nice shaggy dough, as you can tell. So what I'm going to do now to this, I want to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. 1 and 2. Okay. So, you can give this another stir or 3 or 5 if you want, or just get in there with your hands. Now, I will at some point be taking this out to finish kind of hand kneading, to roll it into its top ball before putting it back into this bowl. So, clean hands. It's one of those things, you know, it kind of shouldn't need to be said, but hey, neither should most warning labels, but here we are. Anywho, so we got this together. Now, if you're using a stand mixer, you're going to put this on your stand mixer, lock it in place, put that down. 1 second. Actually, got to turn it on, and you'll see my ninja in the background. So you're going to put this on 2. Start on 1. Let the machine start to work. And as you see this coming together, put it on 2. Alright, I'm going to let this work and we'll be back. It's been going for about a minute and a half maybe. And I just want you to see it is pulling away from the sides. It is on the dough hook. And so now all you want it to do is you're going to touch it. So you can, I can, you can't. Feel that it is slightly sticky, but it is not coming off on my hand. So we're going to continue kneading for about 4-ish to 5 minutes. And we'll be back. Okay, so we've been kneading for about 5 minutes. Make sure your hands are clean. So, it is slightly sticky. It's not really coming off on my hands. And what you want to do now is you want to form this into a nice tight bowl. A nice tight bowl. Make sure your workstation is clean. And again, I just try to get as much of that out as I can. Okay. I will take and put that in a few minutes. So, we have our dough. All you want to do, well, I pull and fold. I don't know if you can see that, but I flatten it out and I grab the end furthest away and I fold it over. And then I basically use my thumb to press in. And then you can just use the palm of your hand. Keep it moving on your worktop. You should not need flour or oil on your worktop for this recipe. You're just going to, I'm sure you can see that. You're just going to roll it, pull it in, use your palm. And then once you have, I just pull it along the counter. That just helps to pull and tighten the dough. Bring your bowl back. You're going to drizzle in a little bit of oil. Now, you know that I'm using olive oil this time. It was way more than I meant to. It happens. So, I just use my hand, run it all the way around the bowl. Wasn't that much, though. So, you just want to grab your dough, top, slide that around to get oil all over it. And that's just because you do not want your dough to dry out. Dried dough is not good to work with. Also gives it a taste. It changes the texture. Anyway, so do that. And then what I do is I throw a towel, it's a flour sack towel, over the top. And then I'm going to put this into my oven with the light on so that it's, it keeps it around 70-ish degrees in there. And so my dough will rise. And it should take, this is a small recipe with 2 cups. So I'm going to check it in about 30 minutes. And at that point, I'll bring you back. Okay, so while you're waiting on your dough to rise, when you think that it has roughly, peek in at it from time to time. And when it's looking close to being doubled in size, what you want to do is you want to take a 1/2 cup of butter, or in the US, 1 stick, a tablespoon of, I used that little hand press this time. So a tablespoon of, I guess, pressed garlic. And then to this, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of parsley. You want to melt the butter. And once your butter is nice and melted, you're going to go ahead and add in your garlic powder and your pressed garlic and your parsley. And to this, because I'm using unsalted butter, I use unsalted for everything. You're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and then taste it. You should notice that it enhances the garlic flavor. Don't use too much because we do have salt in the bread as well. So don't forget that. And I understand that this is not a short. I know a lot of people like the 3-minute or less videos. But for all of those that don't know how to make bread and want to learn, I personally feel like you can't explain and show that in a 3-minute or less video. So I'm really hoping that this video helps anybody that needs it. So like I said, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get this together in just a little bit. I know for you it's like you blink and I'm back. Wonder of the pause button. But anyway, so that explains that. My dough's still rising. I'll show you what it looks like when it reaches that doubled in size. And I'll be back. Just blink. Okay, I'm back. It's been about 35 minutes. And my dough has doubled in size, as you can tell. You saw what it looked like when I put it in. I have the bowl of butter, garlic, salt, and parsley that I told you about. I actually ended up only putting a 1/4 teaspoon of salt in there. And I tasted it and I thought it was perfect. I told you I did a 1.5 tablespoons of pressed garlic. So it was 3 large cloves for me. And I have my loaf pan. I'm using, I think this is like a 1 pound masterclass. The masterclass actually ended up being my favorite loaf pan. I've yet to have anything stick, which is why I love it. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to just pull our dough to deflate. I know some people like to be dramatic, and make sure your workstation has been cleaned back up. And then I just like to give this a little fold a couple of times. And you'll find that your dough is nice and soft. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a paper towel, and I just want to wipe the oil that was still in the bowl out, because I'm just going to reuse this bowl. There's no sense in messing up a whole bunch of dishes. And what we are going to do is we are going to put our butter mixture into this. I told y'all this is a garlic pull apart, so you'll see why. And I am sorry this is a long video. Hopefully it is instructive and helpful. Okay, I'm going to set this here. And what I'm going to do is I want to take and I'm going to pat down my dough. Now, we're not weighing this. We are not measuring these for precise cuts, and you'll see why. But what I will do is I'm going to take and cut this in half. I'm going to set that half right there. And then I'm just going to make some cuts. I do actually have a metal one. This was just the one I grabbed today. And then just a lot of small cuts. And you're going to do this to the whole thing. Now, if you end up with some that are a little bigger than others, like these, just cut those in half. Because you don't want big cuts. And then we're just going to kind of pile that up right there. So because this was a little wider, I just went down the middle, and there's my cuts. Now you're probably thinking, I get it. I don't need to watch you from here, so I'll be back. Okay, so this is where it gets fun and messy. What you want to do is take every bit of these dough balls and just drop them into your garlic butter. Clean hands, and you're going to start working this into your garlic butter. You're going to find that the little dough balls will actually start to, just pull them, stretch them, get that butter and garlic worked in nicely. And this is a great recipe because, you don't actually have to worry about weighing, folding, tucking, rolling, any of that stuff. So what I do is I just try to coat it, and then I put it into my pan for its second rise, and I try to get dough all over the bottom, because you don't really want, you don't want gaps. I don't want gaps. I don't think anybody else want gaps. So, in this part, I'm not going to pause. I have butter all over my hands, so I apologize. You just get to watch. Hopefully you make this, though, and that you like it. I guess you don't have to do this part. You could just make regular garlic bread, which is where, like with my recipe, you can still go ahead and put the extra garlic and parsley and stuff into your dough, and then just after your second rise, cut it, roll it out the way you want it, put it in a pan, let it rise for a second time, and bake it. Now, I just try to spread this out as evenly as I can into my pan because, like I said, we're going to let this rise again. And while it's rising, it should take, I don't know, I would give it about 20 minutes. Again, this always depends on the temperature in your home. So start at 20 minutes, check it. You want it to double 20, 30 minutes. And then from there, you want to bake this in a 350 degree oven or 175 Celsius for, check it at about 20 minutes. So the internal temperature of bread that is cooked usually runs between 190 to 200. Now, I generally don't let mine go over 190. You just, if you don't want anybody to see the little hole from where you temperature probe, you just go in from the side. And generally, nobody will see that. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to wipe my hands as best I can with my little paper towel. And then what's left, we're going to drizzle over the top. Now, if your house is warm, your butter should not completely solidify. If your house is cold, then I recommend that you put this back into your oven to do its second rise. As you can see. So I'm going to cover this and slide this back in the oven, and then we'll be back. Okay, as you can tell, our garlic bread has risen. I put it on a timer for 25 minutes, and we're good. So I'm going to pop this in the oven. Again, it's 350 degrees or 175 Celsius. And I'll let you know exactly how long it takes me to cook it instead of guesstimating. Again, your oven could, need an extra minute or two, or maybe less by a minute or two. So we'll figure it out. I'll be back. Okay, so the bread is out of the oven. I'm at 196 degrees Fahrenheit. Therefore, I know that that's done. Like I said, you can go between 190 and 200. I wouldn't go over 200. Always check the center. Don't go to the bottom. You want right in that center to check that. And nice and golden. So, excuse me, I checked it 10 seconds too early. That was my timer. So I'm going to let this cool for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to put it on another pan that's got a rack in it so that it can breathe all the way around. Otherwise, the moisture that will build up in the bottom of this pan will make your bread soggy. So I'll bring you back in a few minutes so you can see that. Well, you blink a few minutes for me. I'll be back. All right, y'all. You want to so carefully tip this out. When you do, it's on its top, and then just take your hands, kind of push together and flip at the same time, and it shouldn't splatter everywhere or fall apart. It is pull-apart bread. So, there you go. I hope you make this and that you enjoy it. And if you don't, then I honestly hope that you find the recipe out there that you do like. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day.